What would you do if a ragged, barefoot boy came running from the shadows and screamed at the top of his lungs, "Don't eat that," just as you were about to taste your $500 gourmet meal? Would you laugh? Would you call security? Or would you listen? What happened next shook an entire city and changed the life of a billionaire forever. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe for more powerful real-life inspired stories that'll leave you speechless. This one might just stay with you forever. It was a warm Thursday afternoon in Manhattan. The sun had just begun to dip behind the glass towers, spilling golden rays onto Fifth Avenue. Billionaire investor Charles Davenport stepped out of his bulletproof limousine wearing his custom Italian suit, gold cufflinks sparkling like tiny suns. People turned to stare not just at his obvious wealth, but at the presence he carried. He was old money, old power, and in New York, that meant something. His lunch reservation was at Le Rive Doré, a Michelin-starred rooftop restaurant known for its exclusivity and $1,000 truffle-infused tasting menus. But Charles wasn't just there to eat. He was finalizing a merger between two pharmaceutical companies that could add another $200 million to his net worth. His assistant, a sleek young woman named Jenna, followed close behind, making calls and checking her tablet. Inside the restaurant, a table by the glass railing had been cleared for him, the city stretching out below like a canvas. The waiter brought out the amuse-bouche. Charles barely glanced at it. He was too busy reading the terms of the merger on his phone. His main course arrived, Wagyu beef with saffron risotto, drizzled with a rare imported mushroom oil that cost more than a month's rent in the Bronx. As he lifted the first bite to his mouth, a voice shattered the air. "Don't eat that." It was loud, desperate, raw. Everyone froze. Chairs scraped, forks paused mid-air. Charles turned, and time seemed to stop. A young boy, no older than 10, stood just past the glass partition separating the restaurant from the sidewalk below. His clothes were torn, face smeared with soot, and his eyes, those eyes were filled with terror. "Please," the boy gasped, breathing hard. "Don't eat that." For a second, Charles didn't move. Neither did anyone else. Then the murmurs started. "Who let him in here? Where's security?" The manager rushed forward, snapping, his fingers for the guards. "Sir, he's not allowed up here." But Charles raised a hand. He looked at the boy again. Something about the urgency in his voice cut through the billionaire's polished armor. "Why not?" Charles asked, his voice low. The boy took a shaky step forward. "Because I saw the man in the white jacket put something in your food. I was behind the garbage cans. I was just looking for something to eat. I swear I saw him pour something from a little silver bottle." The room erupted. "Ridiculous." A banker scoffed from the next table. "A homeless kid making up stories." But the boy didn't blink. "Check the security cameras, please." "I'm not lying." Charles hesitated. He wasn't the type to believe stories. He'd built his empire by trusting numbers, not people. But something about the boy's eyes made him lower the fork. He waved over the restaurant manager and ordered the security tapes. Immediately, 20 minutes later, the room fell silent again. The footage showed the waiter anew higher glancing around nervously, before sprinkling a clear liquid over the billionaire's plate. The same waiter had vanished just after serving the dish. Chaos exploded. Cops were called. The restaurant shut down. Charles sat back in his chair, pale, the untouched food in front of him suddenly looking like a coffin. He turned to the boy, who stood quietly in the corner, unnoticed now that the drama had passed. Charles walked over. "You saved my life," he said simply. The boy shrugged. "I didn't want you to die. What's your name?" "Leo, asterisk. The next morning, the front page of every newspaper screamed the same headline: "Homeless boy saves billionaire from assassination." But for Leo, nothing changed. He still slept under the bridge near 76th Street, still fought rats for scraps, still held his burlap sack like a treasure chest. He wasn't after fame. He had just done what his mother had always taught him: life, no matter what. But Charles couldn't forget him. That night, he sent his team to find the boy. It took 6 hours and several phone calls to local shelters, but eventually, they found Leo curled up in the back of a subway station, shivering, his thin arms wrapped around his knees. Charles approached him quietly. "Come with me," he said. Leo hesitated. "Are you going to put me in jail?" "No, I'm going to put you in school." That was the beginning of everything. Charles took Leo into his penthouse against the protests of his board, his security team, and even Jenna. "He's a risk," they warned. But Charles had made up his mind. He got Leo cleaned up, fed, and enrolled in one of New York's best prep schools, with a private tutor. Leo didn't speak much the first few weeks, but he learned fast. And when he wasn't learning math or English, he was asking questions, big ones. Why do rich people throw food away while kids eat from trash cans? Why are some people invisible? Do all waiters hate rich people? Charles didn't always have answers, but the questions stuck with him. Leo quickly became more than just a guest. He became a mirror reflecting everything Charles had ignored in his climb to the top. One night, Charles took Leo to a gala. Journalists snapped photos. When asked who the boy was, Charles smiled and said, "He's my guardian angel." That headline went viral, and with it came criticism. Some said it was a PR stunt. Others called Leo a street rat pretending to be a hero. But Leo didn't care. He just wanted to go to school, to learn, to live. Until one day, a lawyer showed up with a file. The waiter who tried to poison Charles had been paid off by someone on the inside, a rival company. Someone wanted Charles dead so the merger wouldn't happen. But that wasn't the twist. The real twist. The lawyer had discovered that Leo's mother, who had died years ago in a shelter fire, had once worked as a lab technician for that same rival company. Her lab reports had exposed safety violations. She had been fired, silenced. The fire that killed her, not an accident. Charles sat in silence as the truth unraveled. The boy who had saved his life was the son of the woman his enemies had destroyed. It wasn't just fate. It was legacy. It was justice. Charles stood up from his chair, fists clenched. "We're not just going to fix this," he said. "We're going to expose them." Asterisk, asterisk, the trial made international news. Leo testified with courage beyond his years. The documents his mother had left behind were used as evidence. Executives from the rival company were arrested. Charles announced he was donating half his fortune to build a network of shelters and schools in her name, the Billionaire Foundation. And Leo, he didn't just attend school, he thrived. 10 years later, he graduated Harvard Law with honors. The boy who once shouted on the sidewalk was now a voice in the courtroom, fighting for children who never got the chance he did. At the grand opening of the Billionaire Foundation's first mega shelter in Brooklyn, Charles, now older and slower, stood proudly beside the young man he once called a guardian angel. Reporters swarmed. "Do you still believe he saved your life?" one asked. Charles smiled. "No, he didn't just save my life. He gave it meaning." And Leo, now suited and confident, turned to the camera and said, "If you're watching this, remember one voice can change everything. One moment can rewrite destiny. So never be afraid to speak up, even when no one listens." The video went viral. Millions watched. Some cried, some donated, and many subscribed, waiting for the next story of a life changed by courage, just like you. So if you made it to the end of this story, hit subscribe, because next time, the voice you ignore might be the one that saves you. Asterisk.